up, everyone? Thank you so much. I am here to talk about everyone's favorite topic, and that's your website. Really the most important thing for getting in front of prospective donors and supporters, subscribers, everything in between. Matt kind of teed it up for me. My name's Franny. I'm a project manager here at CauseMic, which basically means I'm a process girly, okay? I want everyone to know what the roles and responsibilities are from our internal team to our clients. Evelyn is gonna come up at the end because I don't speak code. So if you have any technical questions, she's gonna be the best person to answer anything about how Content Hub works in HubSpot. We're in Portland, and we like to stay caffeinated. So when I was thinking about a good analogy for a nonprofit website, of course I went to caffeine, which is one of my #1 love languages. Recently I had a layover in Minneapolis, and I was there at like 4:30 in the morning, and the entire terminal was under construction. So there was only one coffee place that shall remain nameless to protect the guilty. And I've never seen a more chaotic operation. I needed caffeine like in an IV drip. And I said no thanks because the line was intense, the menu went around the corner behind the bar, you literally couldn't see it all at the same time, and the service was slow. These three things said, even though I really want a cup of coffee right now, I'm gonna leave. And basically we do not want donors to feel that way when they come to your website. You want it to be easy, warm, welcoming. You want that process to make sense for them, whether they have already made a gift and are a returning visitor, or they're unfamiliar with your work and what you do. So let's build a well-run coffee shop. First, we're gonna kind of agree on what are some of those key elements of a nonprofit website. What should I see on every single site that I go to? We'll talk about how Content Hub fits into the HubSpot ecosystem. Heather teed me up really nicely talking about using email, and I think you're gonna see a lot of similarities in the website space in terms of customization of content. So we'll kind of see how that fits into the greater picture. And then we'll go into talking about Content Hub and some of those tools that really level up your ability to customize your content based on what the user is interested in. In general, I find when clients or prospective clients come to us and they want to talk about their website, nonprofits are on average about 5 to 7 years behind the for-profit space. I'm hearing some You're like, I know it's messy. We live in the world of Amazons and Apples, and the e-commerce space is where your donors are interacting every single day, as are you. So that is where we need to look when we think about how to make the process feel really seamless, because that is what we're used to in terms of checking out, making it feel really intuitive. And so that is kind of what I want to keep in mind as we go through this. The first thing that I want to see on every single nonprofit website is good user experience design. In the past few years, kind of as a specialty, this has declined only because it's expected now. It's basic. We want to know exactly what I'm being asked on your website, on your homepage, and I want that to feel really clear to me. Coming back to our coffee shop, the user experience design is about building that physical space. I want the flow to feel like I know exactly where you want me to go. I want to know what that primary CTA is that you're asking me, and I want that content to make sense to someone that may not know your organization, may not be familiar with your jargon. Number 2, this should come as no surprise, compelling storytelling. I see a lot of organizations have something on their homepage hero that's like, we save lives. Congratulations, that tells me nothing about the work that you do, more power to you, but I'm uninspired. I might leave. It's not specific enough, and it's not inspiring me to get involved or want to learn more. This example right here is from a client of ours, Armed Services Arts Partnership. They're based out of DC. They provide healing to veterans through the arts. So stand-up comedy, writing, performative arts. And that's something that's really clear to me, just at a glance. And that's something that you really want to lean into when you're speaking to people that might be unfamiliar with your work. Hopefully none of this is too groundbreaking. When we're thinking about storytelling and that user experience, the first-time visitor is the person that you should be keeping in mind. When you make that flow seamless for them, it becomes better for everybody. So we're talking about, okay, building a donor-centric website doesn't necessarily mean we're talking about people that are already donors, right? We want to think about how do you make it easy to become a donor. Of course, that means the checkout process needs to be really seamless. Show of hands, how many people are already on FundraiseUp in the audience? Okay, about maybe 50-50 or so. That's great. Sal, maybe some of you were talking to him. Where's he at? At lunch, just stepped out. He likes to do a test. If you're not on FundraiseUp, can you check out and make a donation to your organization in a minute or less? That's kind of the gold standard. If I'm at the coffee shop, hell yeah, I'm gonna give a 22% tip because it's recommended to me. It's super easy, right? And that is what you really wanna be thinking about in terms of how to reduce that friction, make it really easy for someone to make a gift. So no matter where your website is built, these are the things that we wanna see kind of across the board. And now let's kind of get into the specifics. So in terms of how Content Hub sits into the larger ecosystem, we've heard a little bit about Marketing Hub, a little bit about sales, and Content Hub can really include the website. It's stronger when combined with some of these other platforms. I know we heard that you can have a HubSpot tracking code on your website if it's not built on HubSpot, if you use a different CRM. But really, Content Hub is strengthened when you're using all of that contact data that you have on each of the users that are in your system to make your website pages and the stories that you're telling really applicable to them. So it integrates with the CRM, email marketing, social media. You can tailor your donor messaging based on what those people are interested in, and really drive organic traffic through kind of a topic cluster search engine optimization content strategy, which is really kind of how you build out the pages that are on your website that level up to how you're navigating folks there. Okay, so let's get into Content Hub. Firstly, things I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to spend time in this 30-minute rapid-fire presentation on websites about how Content Hub has a really easy user interface. I'm not going to talk about the drag and drop builder. That makes it really simple to create pages quickly. And I'm not going to talk about the fact that you really can build websites without the need of a developer. It's made for interdisciplinary teams that can build things really quickly, and you're not having to go through kind of a clunky process in order to get there. So that's going to feel really similar to the email space. Instead, I kind of want to focus on some of what might be considered or feel like bells and whistles, things that can really allow you to add that personalization at scale across your website, so you are really targeting all of your audiences without having to create individual landing pages. It's going to save you time, and it's going to make it really easy for a supporter to feel like they're seen while they're exploring your site. So we're going to talk about interest targeting, some examples of that. We'll go into location targeting, how to make it specific based on where you are, internationalization, and then how do you make all of these things happen internally? So teams management and actually delegating those tasks amongst your team. Interest targeting, coming back to that coffee shop, it's when you walk in and they ask you if you want the usual. they know you. They already know exactly what you're looking for when you get there. So you want that to feel really seamless, and that's attainable with the system for your content. This is an example from a client of our Surfrider Foundation. You may be familiar with them. They have 80 chapters nationwide, and they are really about protecting the world's oceans. And they have a lot of facets to their mission, as many organizations here do as well. And so you're going to have supporters that are, gung-ho about plastic pollution or climate change, and you might want to, casually feature content about those topics to them as they're scrolling through your site, without having to manually create a new page or something super custom. So again, feels seamless, and it doesn't necessarily have to be groundbreaking, but it's going to put that content in front of the user that feels really applicable to them. Same goes for project updates. So maybe you have different lists or audiences in your system, and you want to feature certain content that's happening in that region or initiatives that they might be interested in based on pages that they've interacted with, maybe an event that they attended. You're going to have all of that data and be able to serve it up really seamlessly. Partnering with Fundraise Up, you're able to really customize this interest targeting on a modular level. So you can get pretty granular and swap out different asks or completely different forms depending on what you want to surface based on that user interest. So for example, you might say if someone's never made a gift and they're a prospective donor, you want to default to one time. Come on in, make a gift. We want to be really accessible. And if they're a returning donor, trying to convert them into monthly. So it's a really simple example of how you can kind of customize that experience for the user without it feeling over the top. Okay, let's talk about location targeting. The example I used here is if you're here in Portland and they're going to be recommending you iced coffee in the middle of winter, doesn't totally make sense. And so we're going to have a lot of different regional changes based on where you are in the world, and you can feature that content really easily. So here's an example of prioritizing a donation ask based on work that you may have in that region in the US. It could be by state or by county even. Internationally, you can feature work that's going on in that country really quickly. This can also kind of trickle down to compliance. So some of the less sexy stuff that you have to feature on your website, what do people need to be able to find really quickly? And having your footer automatically update based on where that user is in the world. This extends again to payment currency, where Fundraise Up is responsive, but you do have the ability to kind of manually choose. Let's say you're building out a full kind of sub-microsite or a website in another language, you can have it swap out all at the same time. I know I'm blowing through this, but 30 minutes goes fast. Internationalization. This is something that's going to be applicable to an IFA or a Surfrider or some of those larger organizations that support different markets around the world. But language matters, and it changes a lot, even across in the UK and in the US. So I have pants versus trousers, that's gonna mean something different. And so being aware that you can swap things like that really easily as well is a great tool to have at your fingertips. So for something like IFA, where you might have those individual websites, you have more control rather than having to rely on a translation service or Google Translate to translate your website for you. You're able to really build out full additional websites that are in that language, and so you're able to there's a guardrail in between what you review and what goes live. And this can go all the way down to the CTA buttons. Maybe you're gonna have more specific, this is the one I wanted to focus on. You're gonna have more specific content that can be broken down with smart content modules. So whether you're changing one section on your homepage or you're building out a specific landing page or that full website, you really are able to have that customization down to the specific word and what area of the world they're coming from. Okay. I know the biggest question can sometimes feel like, okay, how are we going to get all of this done? We've all either had or been that intern that's updated a landing page and broken the entire website. I'm not speaking from experience. And so with HubSpot, you're able to really customize who has the ability to review, publish changes, make those edits on the back end. And it can be customized to your organization, because in the nonprofit space, we all kind of function a little bit in a unique way. We see that with our clients all the time. Everybody's process across organizations can vary greatly. And so you're able to build that out. And whether that's from kind of the role standpoint, or you're building out teams, let's say marketing team permissions, everybody that falls into that team is going to have the same ability internally, could fall to development as well. Or you're building out something custom, where you're defining those roles and determining what permissions you want each different team and group to have at your organization. So it feels really easy to make sure that nothing gets broken in the process. Like, for real, really rapid fire, I know. So at a high level, some just key takeaways: make that user experience really, really easy for your prospective donor, make donating as easy as possible, and then leverage personalization at scale tools in HubSpot to make the user feel seen, make that conversion feel really seamless. That's it. Thank you. I am going to invite Evelyn up here, who is our creative technologist and developer, coder, everything in between. So I know that was a lot to get through in a really short period of time, and feel free to find us if you have questions after the presentations as well. But what comes to mind for you all? I know that was quick and high-level overview.
Yeah, absolutely. HubSpot is actually going to be one of the easiest web platforms to do something like that with. So starting from the language standpoint, HubSpot has functionality for multi-language sites, meaning that you can build out entirely separate versions of website pages based on the user's language. So let's say you offer content. I know which languages IFA offers content in, but let's say like an organization that has both Spanish and English programming, you can have a version of that page that is offered in English and in Spanish. And then on top of that, you can start stacking things like smart content. So let's say, for example, you want to offer Spanish content for the United States and Spanish content for Mexico. So you could make that Spanish version of the page, and then you could also use smart content to target based on a person's location. If they're based in the Southwest US, you can serve American content, and if they're located in Mexico, you could then serve Mexican content, so on. Yeah, absolutely. This is all going to be first-party tools. As far as where you're getting your translations, you are going to be sourcing the content, sourcing the translations, and I think a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, that sounds like a downside. But actually, I consider it to be the opposite. There are a lot of platforms that say that they offer internationalization for sites, and they only offer machine translation services, and you have no ability to control what that content looks like, and it means that whoever is viewing your content in a second language, in those cases, would be getting a subpar experience. As opposed to HubSpot, it allows more mature organizations who to more thoroughly and effectively support content in multiple languages. So that's going to be first party. Smart content is also going to be a first party tool. It's available both in Content Hub, and it's also available as a part of the email marketing tools. And that is going to be super simple to set up. All you do is when you're editing a page, you click on the thing that you want to set the condition to display differently. There's, on the left side of the page, there's just a little button that says Add Smart Content role. And that under that, you can change what's displayed based on list membership, based on what location in the world somebody is in, what their preferred language is on their computer. So for example, if something is, if you say, for example, don't want to have a whole different language site for, maybe you have a landing page that's being served in the language you don't typically support, you can just look at that user's computer language and swap out that content based on that. So, yep, that is all first party, all built in, all available on HubSpot.
Mm-hmm. We have one client example right now that has like 6 different kinds of newsletters, and they want supporters to subscribe to each of them individually. That's a journey for another day, but basically we're able to easily kind of showcase for someone that's not subscribed to X, Y, and Z newsletters, we can feature, we want you to subscribe to this additional one without having to do anything manually. So it's based on what lists they're on and what they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say personally, I don't know that I am qualified to speak on HubSpot's social media native integrations, but I will say as far as how you apply that to the website, effectively you have complete free reign to control how that Spanish version of the site displays. And so if you are, say, like pulling in a social media feed to display on your site, that's something where you can absolutely switch out which accounts, what you're displaying on that site. You can even go beyond just replacing, like, say you have a social media feed from, let's say, Instagram on one version of the site. You don't have to just switch out what Instagram feed is there. You can change that entirely. You can swap it out with different content. You can you can replace it with content from a different platform. Really, the sky is the limit. It's almost difficult to talk about because it is so customizable that it's really up to your imagination of what you can do.
That's a good question. That's not necessarily a service that would come out of the CMS, but CauseMic does workshops around building your unique value proposition all the time. So find me later and let's talk all about that.
CauseMic, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're at time. Thank you so much, everyone.